it's Landon Gilfillan here at Pepper and Pine Garden Design, and today I just thought I would give you a quick tour of what's growing in the garden. This could take 45 minutes to show you everything in detail, so I'm just doing a quick sweep. I was gone for 4 days, and when I came back, it was like the garden had exploded. We had one good day of rain, and it just caused everything to take off. And I feel like I'm living in that garden wonderland that we all dream of. So I want to show you some of the things that are happening, a couple of the problems that I'm experiencing and what I'm considering to do. Maybe you're experiencing the same thing. But this is the time of year that is just so exciting, when everything really starts taking off and taking shape, and it's just so fun to come out into the garden every single day. So let's take a look at what's going on. Check out this Three Sisters garden, y'all, and all this butternut, which just blew up over the weekend. It's just huge and massive and nowhere to walk, which I kind of knew was going to happen. And I've got tassels on my corn, so that's coming in, and the beans are growing up corn stalk. I cannot believe how fast this all happens, but it's happening. It's gonna get real soon here. Additionally, look how big these sunflowers are. We're already getting flowers on the top. They're huge. They're probably about 3-4 foot tall, some of them. And these butternut squash are starting to grow up through the sunflowers. Thankfully, they're tall enough that they can still get sunshine. But man, they're towering over this row of sunflowers. So this was the first 2 rows that I planted, and then the second 2 rows, and then the next row, just going on down every about 7 to 10 days, adding another 2 rows of sunflowers. And you can see the squash already coming over here and trying to grow this way, which I knew that was going to happen. I had planned on that, but I think it's happening faster than I imagined in my mind. So anyway, this is just taken off. It's awesome to see. Hopefully it'll all work out. And I just planted these yesterday, so in a week I'll be doing another 2 rows, and we'll keep going. You can see the watermelon is spreading, but a lot slower. It just sent out its vines. I mean, these vines have happened probably in 4 or 5 days time. They were just little mounds like that the last time I was out here. I left town for 4 days, and this is what happened. So hopefully I'll be able to continue to get these sunflower rows in here before this looks like that. These potatoes, this is my really healthy potato row. I saw some flowers on here about 4 or 5 days ago, and now I'm starting to see this. And I'm really hoping this is the end of the plant, like what its normal dying that it does after it flowers, and not something else, because this happened in like a couple days time, and I'm seeing it on a lot of leaves. This wasn't here a couple of days ago. So I was trying to look for the flowers, and yeah, they've definitely already flowered and died. So they might be getting to the end. You know, you start seeing a lot of this, you know, get in here and pull this out because you don't want to get blight. But there's a lot of stuff in the air right now coming from Canada, and I'm really hoping that is not what is causing a lot of this really gnarly looking plants. If you weren't aware, there's, you know, a lot of fires going on in Canada, and a lot of the, you know, very northern states like Michigan are being affected by it. We've had like overcast skies for days just because of the air conditions and the residual smoke that's being pushed down this way. We had a really heavy rainfall a few days ago, and I'm just wondering if chemicals and smoke and particles that my plants don't like were dropped, you know, with that rain, on that rainfall, because there's a lot of weird looking stuff going out here. A lot of particularly my potatoes look bad. Not so much this area right here, although like I'm showing you, these leaves have just in the last couple of days started to look sad. So I'm crossing my fingers that it means it's almost time to harvest, and not that there's a sickness going through here, because if so, I'm going to have to do an earlier harvest than I imagined. But you know, I planted these. I'm going to have to do a date check. I'm going to have to go back and look at my calendar, because it might just be getting close to harvest season. But I'll show you some of the other things that I'm seeing. This on a lot of my plants, in particular my brassicas. This sort of yellowing. Now, there is a general yellowing generally on the bottom leaves that happen, but it's affecting some of the higher leaves, and I don't know, it doesn't look like the normal aging of leaves to me. I could be wrong, because I'm just noticing it more than I feel like I normally would, and I'm wondering if there is something in the ground. Maybe it was the wood chips that I used. Maybe they weren't composted enough or broken down enough, and there's some sort of residual chemical that was in those wood chips, because I'm seeing it in different parts of my garden. It's really interesting. It's not just in one spot, you know. See that? I don't know. I know that there's been a lot of people that have been having some weird soil issues, whether it's contaminants dropped from the sky or contaminants in, bagged soil that they've been buying. And I'm seeing a lot of that in my garden as well. Areas aren't affected at all. Like all of these plants right here, I don't really see any of it unless it's just the general yellowing on the bottom leaves. All of these look really good. These look good. I don't see any of the weird yellowing till I get about halfway down this bed. And I pulled a lot of these off already, but starting like right here where I've got these rutabagas, and they're looking a little healthier. Their leaves look so bad. They were just falling off, looking like this. I even had to pull a couple of rutabagas out, and the actual plant was rotted. It was so weird. So I don't know what is going on. I haven't had this happen before. See this? This doesn't look like just normal leaf aging to me. This looks like something else is going on, and I don't know if it's something that's in the soil. That is my guess, or something that's dropping out of the air. But I've got rutabagas. They're right here. I'm hoping I can get these to make it. I might just have to come out and pull them if they start looking shabby. But those are gonna be ready to pull soon, and I'm hoping that these pull through, because these are the ones where I had to pull a lot of these weird looking leaves off. Are any of you guys having this issue as well? See, it's usually on my cabbages too. Just right on the edges. Right on the edges. It's like they've been burned, like a chemical burn. That's why I'm wondering if something's in the air. A lot of them are at the base, but not all of them. Thankfully, these cabbages are about done, so I can get them out of here. But yeah, it's just the weirdest looking. See, it looks like a burn from the sky or something. I'm not sure. And then these potatoes, as we go down the row, you'll see how much worse they start to look. These look okay. I'm starting to see some yellowing here, which that's not unusual for potatoes. They're lower leaves, sometimes need to be pulled. But then we get over here and they just start looking really bad. A lot more yellow than I should be seeing. And as I keep going, they get worse and worse. And yes, I did find Colorado beetles on my potatoes when I got back from my trip. So now I'm dealing with that. But the yellowing that I'm seeing shouldn't be Colorado beetle damage. This is like blight or some sort of disease or something in the ground. The beetles eat the leaves like caterpillars do. See how they're eating the leaves away there? That's the damage they do. And if they do too much of it, your plant will wilt and die. But it doesn't cause the massive yellowing all at once like this. And these leaves, I mean, these plants are just crumbling and dying all the way down here. So I'm doing my reading. I'm trying to figure out what might be causing this, but I'm just wondering if the wood chips that I put in here, if there was something on them that's killing these plants. That being said, these plants here on the edges, my cabbages, are fine. My cabbages have done great, other than some caterpillar damage. So if the theory holds that there's something going on with the wood chips, then my cabbages should be affected, but they're not. So that tells me it's something with the potatoes. And that's logic, you guys. That's deduction, right? If these look fine and those don't, then it's likely something with the plant. Looky here. That white foam right there, that is aphids, sign of aphids. And thankfully I've got tons of lady beetles or ladybugs in my garden. I'm seeing the pupae and the adult stages everywhere. So lady beetles and ladybugs take care of aphids, but yeah, that's the first I've seen of that. So I'm having to wait till tonight. I'm gonna come in here and spray these Colorado potato beetles. That's what that is. I'm gonna release a couple chickens in here to eat those up. And then I'm gonna come back with some spray to try to get rid of the babies that are still left in here. So that's the plan. But look at these cabbages coming along. Aren't they beautiful? So beautiful. And there's several of these that I've got to come in and harvest tonight. But these are just spectacular looking. Check out my Dara. This is the flower that I've been waiting to bloom. Ha! Isn't that beautiful? So this is the one that's related to Queen Anne's lace. It's in the same family as dill. So you can see the similarities here between these flowers and a dill flower. They're in the same family. This is just a cultivated variety that is more of an ornamental than useful. So here's the dill. You can see the similarities in the flowers there. This one's just much more aromatic, and I need to come out here and get some of this cut since it's already starting to flower. I don't want to lose all of this. Chamomile is still going strong. We've been trying to steadily harvest on this every night, so we don't waste these beautiful flowers, but they are just prolific. They reseed and come back every year, so I'm not worried about not having enough the next year. They might end up taking over this whole space, but we have been trying to harvest these regularly. My first 13 peas have really taken off the last week or so. They're definitely now prolific, and it's more of a matter of holding off my kids from coming out here and eating all of them. I had planted enough that I thought I would be able to freeze these or store them, but most of them are just getting eaten as is, and that's okay. I want my kids to be able to enjoy what's in the garden, but this is a great variety. It's called First 13. There's about 13 peas in every pod, and they get big if you have to be patient and wait for them to get nice and round like this one is. I'll show you. But you can also eat them in the pod. So when they're flat like this, like a snow pea or a snap pea, you can eat them just like that and they taste great. Or you can wait for them to do this. Now this one's been broken off on the end, so you're not going to see 13 peas, but that's what that looks like when they're ready to go, and they taste amazing. My little 2-year-old will come out here. She's figured out how to open them up, and she'll eat them all up, and that may be the culprit that's causing me to not have any on my vines is my little 2-year-old, but I'm glad they're enjoying them. I probably won't have enough to preserve, but I'll know better for next year. But First 13 pea is a great variety. I've really, really liked this variety. And my cucumbers are finally taking off. It took them a long time, but they're starting to vine. They're starting to get flowers. And in between each plant, I have planted some radishes that I'm going to let go to seed. Radishes that go to seed near cucumbers are just a good deterrent for certain pests that like cucumbers. I'll have to write the pests down below in the right here. I can't remember which one this helps deter, but putting radishes with squashes and cucumbers and a lot of your vining plants when they go to seed and they have their pods like this will really deter some pests that like those cucumbers. And we've been harvesting carrots. I left quite a few of them in here to get bigger, but you can see them there. They're heading up. In fact, this one's probably about ready to pull. I'll just give it a pull here on camera. Oh yeah, this is a nice one. I think these are my Scarlet Nantes. They're either my Scarlet Nantes or my Tender Sweet. I don't remember which ones I sowed where, but we have been harvesting carrots here in the last couple days, and there's still some in here that are getting larger. So we'll harvest those over the next week. And then over here is where I did my second or third planting of radishes. That's what you're seeing here are the radishes. And then the carrots are gonna come up underneath them. That's my carrot and radish interplanting. So you can see the little carrot leaves coming up under the radishes. These should be ready here in the next week, the radishes, and then the carrots will continue to grow. So we'll have another good harvest of carrots all the way down the row here in a few months. There's so much to show you in the garden. I'm not going to do it all on this video because I love seeing garden tours, but I don't really have the time to do 45-minute videos. But I do want to show you some of the things that are happening, and then I'll get down in the nitty-gritty on the smaller videos and show you how I'm pruning things or how I'm working with pest control or whatever the case may be. But I do want to show you this other garden. We finally got the tomatoes trellised today. I had all hands on deck. All the kids were out here. We're working really hard in the hot sun to get these fences up and these poles up. So we finally got the tomatoes trellised. And now it's just a matter of continuing to tape them as they grow. So I'll give you a quick view here. I'm gonna show you this really cool corn and squash garden that's going over here, and then I'm gonna call it a day. So here are the tomato rows right here. Now I did something different, a little bit different this year, similar but different to what I've done in the past. I really prefer cattle panels. They're nice and sturdy. They hold really well. But they're expensive, you guys. They're so expensive, and I just couldn't do that this year. So I had this 2x4 wire fencing. I had 2 rolls of it over behind my shed, and there was just no point in buying something when I had it. So all I did is I went and bought some of these 6-foot garden stakes. I really wanted the 8-foot, but all they had was the 6-foot. And even these were $5.99. So it's really, if you can find them on Marketplace or on sale, go that route. But I had to get these up, so I couldn't wait any longer for anything to come on the Marketplace. But I've got T-posts at the main points, the ends and the centers and in between, just for stability. And then I've come through with these garden stakes in between, and this is just going to continue to help hold up this fence as these tomatoes grow. And then you can see this kind of turquoise colored tape in here. This is like an elastic tie tape that I'm using for these tomatoes, and I really like it because it stretches, it'll grow with the plant, it's easy to cut. It came in 150 feet for like I think it was $4 or $5, a really good price, and I think I'm really gonna like using it this year. And it'll be reusable, so I could probably come out here, untie them, and use them next year if I wanted to. So that's how I'm trellising the tomatoes. I've got tomatoes on both sides of the fence, so one I'll train up this side, and those I'll train up the other side. And then we have a whole nother row, same thing over here. So I've used this 2x4 wire fencing in the past, and it's been fine. You just have to support it by probably having more posts than you would if you had the cattle panels. And the other thing I do with this wire fencing is I bring it up 2 feet, about 24 inches off the ground. And the reason for that is because these plants don't really need trellising below 2 feet. As they grow, I'll continue to prune them to one stem like this. I'll prune the bottoms of them as they grow, and up to about 2 feet, that their stems are going to look like this. So I don't need any trellising down here. This can be open space. And the other thing that allows for is for these fences to be taller for when those tomatoes get 7 and 8 feet tall. So this right here is 5 feet. Is that right? 5 feet, yes. So, but because I gave it 2 feet down here, now it's 7 feet tall. So it's going to give me a lot more room for those indeterminate tomatoes, especially the cherry tomatoes, to have all this up here to trellis on. So this has been a really good system, and more inexpensive than using cattle panels. So if you're looking for something cheaper, this is a good way to do it. And you can just reuse this wire fencing for so many different things throughout the year. And the other thing you could do if you can't do the fencing is twine. You could do these stakes, every 4 feet or so down the row. And then you could use a garden twine or a polyurethane rope, tie in between these ropes, and then trellis your tomatoes on the twine. So that's another thing you could do. I have 60 tomato plants, so it didn't make sense for me to have 1 stake per tomato, because I've seen that where you can have a stake or a T-post that each tomato plant is trellised on, but I would have had to have 60 of these, and there's no way I could have afforded that. So this is my solution, and I think it's gonna be a good one. My herb garden's coming along nicely. My peppers are looking great. I've even got fruit on them, I can't believe it. So those are really filling out. But check out this, you guys. Let me go from a different vantage point. This is so pretty. This is my sweet corn and my zucchini, and it just looks so cool, especially from the house. Isn't that gorgeous? These are all my bush beans, Blue Lake bush beans right here coming in. And just look at that mound of zucchini flowers and corn. It's the coolest thing. I just think it looks great. And we're already harvesting a ton of zucchini from these plants. So this has been good. It's got lots of space to sprawl here. It's got room to go this way and that way and that way. And it's kind of covering up these beans here. So I may have to come and trim out some of these leaves. But yeah, this was a good spacing plan right here with this. So beans, my eggplants are pulling through. I need to come back out here and spray these one more time for the flea beetles. I think they're still trying to get some of these leaves, you can see here, but I do have new growth. So that's a good sign. I'm having new growth from these plants, but I just want to make sure that they're not getting attacked by the flea beetles. I think I see some in here. So I'm gonna come out tonight and spray those one more time for the flea beetles so I can hopefully get a nice eggplant crop. Peppers are looking awesome. I should be getting some peppers on these soon. And then my broccoli that I planted is coming in. So these have held out. I've got some nice big ones coming in. So I'm excited to see that this broccoli row here is doing well. This is the end of the peas on this side. My ducks got to them and pulled out a ton of these peas. So that's a disappointment. These are the remaining ones, but that's okay because I've got several cucumbers coming in between. So it'll give them room to sprawl. And let me just show you. This is what these first 13 peas look like. Look at that. Look how many there are. These were untouched by the ducks, and this is what they're supposed to look like. So this, again, is a really great pea variety. The first 13, you can see how prolific they are. And here's a great example of a pod that's ready to be picked. The thing I'm going to show you are these gorgeous nasturtium plants that, again, took off while I was gone over the weekend. We had one good rain, and I came back, and these things were huge. I have very large hands, and look how big these leaves are compared to my hand. They are enormous. And I've seen the flowers are starting to come in, so that's exciting. These are my favorite plants and my favorite flowers in the garden are nasturtiums. So I have these everywhere I can fit them in, so I'm excited to see these. And these are ones that I grew from seed indoors. You know, nasturtiums are not recommended to start from seed indoors, but I did it anyway. And these by far are the biggest ones in the garden. I've got a few that I started from seed over here, and they're much smaller, but these just look great. And so I'm excited that I started them indoors and got them a head start because I just love seeing them in the garden. There's so much more I could show you, but I gotta go inside and help the kids out, and it's hot out here. So I just wanted to show you a bit of what's going on. A huge amount of growth we had over 4 days. One day being really rainy and wet. That's what the garden needed. It's amazing what happens after a rain. Everything is just taking off. There's a few issues I'm having to deal with, specifically with those potatoes, but I will keep you informed as to what I find out and how I manage those. We might end up just having to dig them all up, save what we can, tend to the ground, put some compost down, and plant something else next year. We'll see. I'll keep you updated. So if this has been helpful, if you're loving the content, subscribe, let me know. I'll keep the content coming out. Other than that, my name is Landon Gilfillan here at Pepper and Pine Garden Design, growing gardeners and their gardens, and I'll see you in the next video.